I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 47, so let's focus on verses 3 through 6. When Pharaoh asked his brothers, "What is your occupation?" And they said to Pharaoh, "Your servants, both we and our fathers, are shepherds." And then they said to Pharaoh, "We have to live in the land for a while because there is no grazing land for your servants' sheep, since the famine in the land of Canaan has been severe. So now, please let your servants settle in the land of Goshen." And then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Now that your father and brothers have come to you, the land of Egypt is open before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best part of the land. They can live in the land of Goshen. If you know of any capable men among them, put them in charge of my livestock." Genesis 47, verses 3 through 6. Now today's passage doesn't seem to pack much of a punch. It's pretty much a formal conversation between a few of Joseph's brothers and Pharaoh. It's like the handshake that concludes a business deal. There isn't much drama here, but when placed with its preceding verses in chapter 46, the conversation takes on more of a clever sense. Genesis 46, verses 31 through 34. Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go up and inform Pharaoh, telling him, 'My brothers and my father's household who were in the land of Canaan have come to me, and the men are shepherds. Indeed, they raise livestock. They have brought their sheep and cattle and all that they have. And when Pharaoh addresses you and asks you, "What is your occupation?" you are to say, "Your servants, both we and our fathers, have raised livestock from our youth until now." And then you will be allowed to settle in the land of Goshen, since all shepherds are abhorrent to Egyptians. Genesis 46, verses 31 through 34. Now Joseph knew his brothers. These were the men who beat him and sold him into slavery. And he knew that for Israel to prosper long term, they needed to be separate from Egypt. And that is a good lesson for us. Seriously, we all know how our proximity to the world negatively affects our spiritual walk. And that's why we're commanded to be in, but not of, the world. Even though we're in it, we are not to act like it. So not only did God lead Israel into Egypt, but he also led them to a place where they could be separate from the Egyptians. Joseph also knew the Egyptians. Funny, by this time, Joseph was literally shepherding Egypt as well as his own family. He was the most powerful man in Egypt, and Pharaoh told him that aside from the title Pharaoh, Joseph was in charge of Egypt. And still, the Egyptians could not make that abstract connection between sheep herder and shepherd/overseer. They despised people who herded sheep, but they didn't see themselves as sheep who were being herded by Joseph. Isn't it interesting? Because God honors shepherds. David was a shepherd. Moses was shepherding when God called him. Shepherds were the first people to worship the Messiah when Jesus was born. Jesus called himself the Good Shepherd. The bottom line is this: the Egyptians were more interested in image than goodness. They wanted to be considered somebody, but they didn't care about anybody. No, Joseph didn't want that attitude saturating the mindset of his people. So, with one handshake, Joseph ensured that Israel would be separate from Egypt and that Egypt would not want to be close to Israel. Have you determined to live your life in, but not of, the world? I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.